My name is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriffs.com. And our special guest tonight is Saint Madness lead singer, Prophet. Welcome to the show tonight, Prophet. And first thing I got to just say before we get into the interview is, man, I know you're from Arizona, but where have you guys been hiding? Because you were gracious enough to send me a copy of your latest CD, BlOODLUSTCAPADES. And man, I just love the album from top to bottom. I got to tell people you're like Arizona's best kept secret as far as great metal.
Oh well, you know what? Thank you very much for that. Yeah, we've been around. The band has been around since 1993, and BlOODLUSTCAPADES is our 11th CD.
Oh wow! And I noticed it's released on an independent label, Nitty Gritty. Or Nasty Prick Records, and I believe that's your label. So talk a little bit about that, because that's a cool thing to have your own little label going.
Yeah, Margie and I own Nasty Prick Records, and the band in 1993, from 1993 to 1997, we were originally known as Crown of Thorns.
Oh wow!
Okay, and the first record we put out in '94 was called Loneliness Is Black. And we didn't have a label, so, it was kind of like, fuck it, make your own label, and put out your own stuff. And so, in thinking of the title of the label, I was thinking, Nasty Prick was perfect.
Yeah.
And because I knew everybody would take it the dirty way, but also, a band named Crown of Thorns, a thorn will give you a nasty prick.
Oh wow! That's an interesting concept. Wow, that kind of does work. And Crown of Thorns, I think
everything from there about the band is like that.
Yeah,
it's like double messages, a lot of humor in the music, and a lot of really serious shit, and but a lot of variety on the albums. Like, we don't want to be painted in any one little box.
Yeah.
You're only deathcore, you're only thrash, or you're only whatever. We're like metal. Any kind of metal, we throw it in together and kind of mash it up.
Because a lot of it, I'll tell you, first couple songs I heard off it, I did think there was a bit of a kind of like a Rob Zombie influence coming out. And then I'll tell you, one of my favorite tracks actually off the album is the song Can't Help Falling in Love with You. And to me, that kind of, like you said, it's a different... it has a different bit of a vibe to it. It's almost got, I describe it almost as like a metal Elvis sound, if you could even go with that.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because number one, that is the last song that Elvis Presley ever performed live on stage, because he ended all of his concerts with it. Mm-hmm. The reason I became a singer in the first place is Elvis Presley when I was in high school. And Elvis died when I was in high school. And it changed my life. And I'll tell you why. Before he died, I liked his music, and I could recognize him if I saw him on TV, but I wasn't really wrapped up in anything. And then when he died, and I saw the whole world stop. I mean, there wasn't a magazine or newspaper or TV show out there that wasn't talking about the king dying.
And
I thought, man, this is special, So I started coming home at night after school and singing to his record. Before he died, I wanted to be a professional soccer player. I loved sports. I was always on some kind of team. But Elvis changed my life. So in all these years of being in metal, I never recorded an Elvis song before. And Marge and I were talking about it. And Marge Johnson is our manager since 1995, and she's also my girl. And so we were thinking about that, and we thought, maybe it's about time that we record an Elvis cover.
Now that's kind of
a special one.
Yeah, and you know what's cool about that is you did not go with one of the obvious choices like Jailhouse Rock or Hound Dog or something like that, or Blue Suede Shoes, something people have heard a million times. And what's cool about it is, like, I obviously picked up on that because I didn't really know that this was an Elvis song, but I kind of picked up, okay, there's that Elvis influence, or you can hear this is kind of like I call it metal Elvis. And I don't know if you had a chance to hear, but Glenn Danzig of all people recently put out an Elvis tribute CD of him doing like Elvis standards, and it sounds nothing like you'd expect a Danzig album to sound like.
Glenn Danzig's been called Evil Elvis for many, many years because of his low voice and the vibrato.
Yeah.
And,
And even actually on the back of the album cover here, it's got like this little kind of metalized Elvis, kind of freaky looking guy, but it's a character, but it's real cool.
On our CD?
Yeah.
That's Vampire Elvis.
Vampire.
Elvis was a guy who slept all day and partied all night, and he was known for that for like 20 years.
Wow.
And so we made him Vampire Elvis, and then if you pick up the CD, it's Zombie Cash coming out of the ground, because we did 2 covers on this album.
Okay.
The Johnny Cash cover, which is Folsom Prison Blues.
Okay.
And then we did Get Up Falling in Love with You. And they're both songs from guys who made it in the 50s and guys who made it on the same label at the same time.
Now, Can't Help Falling in Love with You, that's the song I told you I kind of really dug. And is that a Johnny Cash song too?
No, that's an Elvis Presley song. That was one of his biggest hits.
Because you know what's funny? When I was listening to this today, I was listening to that song, and it just had kind of a catchy beat, you know, Can't Stop Falling in Love. And I could have sworn, I'm telling myself, this is a different version of what I heard, but I know I've heard this song before, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but now I know. That's great.
Yeah, we always try, like when we do a cover, and for several records now, we put at least 1 or 2 covers on every album. And that's our way of giving tribute to different artists that influenced us over the years, and it's our way to show love and respect to them. Yeah, and that's why we do it.
I love when bands do that. One of my other favorite recent bands that has a habit of doing that is the Dead Daisies. Like, they've done great covers of Creedence Clearwater Revival. They did like a great cover of Fortunate Son, and they've covered the Who with Joined Together, and they got a lot of great covers they've done. So I tip my hat to those guys.
The whole music out there kind of fresh and new. See, when current artists do covers of older artists, it's a great thing, man. And we've had a few bands do covers of our music.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
My attitude on that is,
why not?
I love it. I'm honored by it.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you be? I mean, I kind of used to laugh back in the day when I was a big fan of Whitesnake back in the day, especially when that '87 album came out. And I remember seeing like Robert Plant at the time doing interviews, and he'd call like Coverdale David cover version. But isn't that the ultimate honor? A guy wanting to kind of follow in your footsteps and being successful.
And I think Coverdale made an album with Page in the '90s, and I really like it a lot. I guess it probably didn't sell huge numbers or whatever.
I know that really irked Plant, oddly enough, but it's just kind of funny because, like I said, I'm a huge Whitesnake fan, and I kind of I did not realize until after becoming a Whitesnake fan that actually David Coverdale was actually, before there was a Whitesnake, he was in Deep Purple. And so like that Burn album he did with Deep Purple, I don't know if you're aware of it, but I became aware of that like much later in life. I thought, oh wow, that's the same guy,
Yeah, no, and before that he was a butcher.
Yeah, just think about that. In fact, I read years ago that he got the gig with Deep Purple back in 1973, I think, actually on his 21st birthday, he found out he was in a band. Just think about what a coming of age treat that was.
Well, get this, right? If you go online to YouTube and you look up Deep Purple at Cal Jam, Deep Purple at Cal Jam, 1974, that's one of David Coverdale's first gigs, like with the band, and it's in front of 250,000.
I know the gig you're talking about, and I will tell you this. I actually got a CD copy of it, but even better than that, like I went on YouTube and I've actually seen a professional video of what they had on TV back in the day, and I'll tell you, man, especially Blackmore. I mean, he was going off at the cameraman, from what I understand, and he was in the guy's face, but it was just, they were explosive, and that was the thing about a band like Deep Purple back in the day. I mean, you were not going to see them play the record like you played it at home in your, your home stereo. I mean, they would jam out to one song like for 30 minutes. I mean, that's how great of a live band they were. You know, when people tell me
Right.
keyboards suck in rock music, I tell them, look at Deep Purple, look what John Lord did, and then you tell me that.
Right.
You know?
But see, when's the last time you had a new original band that had a keyboardist like that sounded like that, you know?
Probably the only one that comes to mind, and like you said, it was a number of years ago, was the band Boston, you know? I used to love what they did too, and I will say this, Prophet, you know, that's what I think makes a band like yours so great, because like you said, first of all, you have respect for the guys that came before you, you know, even by doing something like covering other people's music. And like, I'd heard this tune, you know, Folsom Blues before, but it kind of took me back, and I thought, oh yeah, you know, I kind of forgot about that tune. So, and like you're saying, a lot of bands these days, even bands like that have been around as long as you, they get to the point where eventually they kind of, you know what, CDs aren't selling, nobody's buying new music, so we're not going to bother recording or, you know, putting out any new music. We'll just live on our catalog of stuff. That's why I got to hand it to bands like St. Manus. You guys continue to deliver the goods. You continue to you continue to put out new music. And like I said, you got a new fan in me. I finally got a chance to hear the CD you sent me. And, man, just from top to bottom, great sound and metal. And so I dig that you guys continue to deliver the goods for your fans, you know.
Right on. I'm really glad that you enjoy the record. And there's a ghost track, number 14.
Uh-huh. Okay, I don't know if I wasn't even aware of that.
It goes out to Cannot Falling in Love with You. And the first thing you're going to hear is a guy snoring. And then you're going to hear this weird voice in the background singing.
Wow.
And that voice is our parrot that unfortunately passed away in January of 2019, but we had him in our family for 42 years.
Oh, well, that is amazing. And I'll tell you,
wow. My mom's voice, and my mom died like 12 years ago.
Wow.
And Noah spoke and sang everything with my mom's voice. He was her baby.
Oh, wow.
So that weird voice you hear singing is actually a bird.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story, you know, about being an animal lover and birds. I live in Long Beach, California, and my mother one day was just out on her back porch, and this parrot, believe it or not, actually just a screen parrot that somehow got away from whoever owned it, and came flying in my mother's front room when she opened the door, and she just captured it, you know, and they kept it, and it started saying all this stuff like pretty bird, and I tell you, you know, you think they're little bird brains, but they're very intelligent. It just amazes me, you know.
Well, they're highly intelligent. They can live from 80 to 100 years.
Yeah, probably be here long after all of us, you know, but who knows? And
Marge said that recently she read an article where they said they thought they found Winston Churchill's African gray parrot because it was very old and it said all this anti-Nazi propaganda slogans.
Wow.
Yeah, and they think it was his because it was like a famous bird, you know.
Wow, that's amazing. And now, you know, you were mentioning, we're talking a little bit about what an influence Elvis was on you, and like you said, at that time, I mean, there had never been really too many iconic singers like that had died at that time. And if you remember, for years, even after Elvis had died, everybody was talking about, oh, he's still alive, he's in hiding and all this.
Oh, yeah.
And they had all these stories in the National Enquirer and stuff, people trying,
They did the same thing to Jim Morrison. You know, they say Morrison's really still alive.
Yeah.
And then you have the rumor in the Beatles, like Paul is dead, Paul was replaced by somebody.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's all just crazy show business.
Even Michael Jackson, I mean, he'd been probably the biggest kind of icon of a star that had died at that, you know, when he died too, since Elvis.
King of rock and roll, man.
Yeah.
I mean, all over the world, you know.
Yeah.
That guy was the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, King of Pop, they called him. And, you know, and getting back to like, you know, other guys are kind of rumored to be in person. I remember back around the time Motley Crue released the album Girls, Girls, Girls. There was this rumor that, you know, Nikki Sixx had actually OD'd, like the rumor said, and that Motley Crue, so they could go on, they got this other guy that was actually a Motley Crue lookalike, and this is a true story to point. The guy was pretending to be, saying he was Nikki Sixx, and we spread the rumor around, and it got legit enough that people actually started to believe it, where, no, Motley Crue hired this other guy who looked like Nikki Sixx. He was like a lookalike. They didn't want anybody to know that Nikki really had died, and I guess the guy eventually died of a drug overdose. But it's just amazing when you see how something can go from being like a myth to actually people believe in it, you know?
I guess Kiss had actual concerts where they knew Ace may or may not show up because he was too wasted, and this is on the last tour when they were together.
Oh yeah, this
We actually had Tommy Thayer waiting in the wing with his Ace costume, and he'd go out there and nail it, you know.
Yeah.
And I've seen all versions of Kiss, and of course I'll always love the original four because that was like really special.
Yeah.
But these last guys, to me, sound better than any lineup they've ever had.
Well, I will say this. Like you said, you can never go wrong with the original. But I will say, you got to give it to Gene and Paul. First of all, they've been the two guys there for 50 years. And as great as Ace and Peter might be, I still even say Gene and Paul are better musicians. They're much better songwriters. And that's why they've been the two guys been able to keep the band together. I don't think if Ace and Peter been in the band, running the band for 50 years, I don't think.
No, Paul and Gene knew how to run the band like a business.
Yeah.
You know, and Paul is truly the hero in that band. He's the one, because Gene had his time in the 80s where he was trying hard to become a movie star. He wasn't near as focused on the band, and Paul kept it going.
Oh yeah, I agree with all of what you're saying, and the funny thing about it is, you know, even like when they first got Tommy Thayer into the band, I think it was back in 2012 is when they were doing like they're going to appear at the Olympics or something, and they kept telling Ace, "Hey, you better be there," and he kept missing his plane, and eventually, like you said, they had Tommy Thayer kind of in the wings waiting, and Ace just decided he didn't want to come back, he wanted to do his solo thing, so you know, more power to you. But again, I think the reason really that Kiss has been able to stay so strong is because Gene and Paul, say what you will about them, but they're just really great songwriters. I mean, look at the catalog of music songs they have played on the radio every day. When you can,
I've got to meet them. Short meetings.
Yeah.
A few different times, and I will say the vibe that comes from Paul Stanley is he's a nice person.
Yeah.
You know, and you're right, they're great songwriters, and you know, in Paul's book, I don't know for sure. I read all their books. It's in one of their books, but they said they went to an Alice Cooper show, and they were so touched by that theatrical show that's what made them become Kiss. But the difference is, Alice had all these actors and stuff coming out on stage, and Kiss decided early on that they would be the show, that each member. But all of us in theatrical shock, rock, or metal, what have you, we all have to tip our hat to Alice Cooper. Yeah,
very first guy. I mean, I think I heard the same interview, and Paul's done many interviews, of course, over years, but I've heard them talk about the same thing you are, which is before there was a Kiss, there was Alice Cooper. We all four went to see Alice Cooper, and Paul kind of said the thing with Alice was they put on a great theatrical show of a band, but he said there was only one guy in makeup. We decided to kind of take it to the next level. There was not just going to be one guy made up. There's going to be four guys in the band made up, and they each, of course, designed their own individual character, which is kind of the next thing I want to get into, because your band, for anybody who doesn't know, I urge them to go on Facebook and look the band up, because as great as the music is, you guys got a great visual thing going for you. I mean, I would say that you're, I could see you being influenced by Kiss just because of the makeup alone. So talk a little bit about, first of all, when the band first got together, did you initially have the idea to do the makeup, or how did that kind of first evolve?
No, when we first came together, we didn't know what we were. So we just wrote a bunch of songs, you know, and I'm fortunate in that even meeting those first guys in the band, the songwriting came naturally, man, and it's just so cool. I've got to work with, you know, over the years, St. Madness has probably had 20 different members that are on albums.
Wow.
And, well, with 11 albums. But the thing is, they're all such talented people, and I feel honored, man. I got to make records with all these guys. But all the way back to the first meeting of the first members, we wrote a song probably within the first week. It just like came out naturally, you know? And so from 93 to 95, we had banners and we had lights and smoke on stage and stuff like that. But we really didn't have an identity of
Who you
on
were.
stage.
Yeah, okay.
You know? In the artwork, I always used a lot of vampire footage. In like the ads and stuff, I put vampire stuff in
And was that just because you initially
were in... songs about vampires
okay.
from the beginning of the first record.
Okay.
But back then it was no face paint or nothing. And what changed all that is from 92 to the late 90s, grunge music kind of took over. And in Arizona, a state that at one time was like one of the most amazing metal scenes probably on the planet.
Oh, yeah, I hear
in the underground, right? In the underground. It went from that to a lot of the alternative music, and a lot of the alternative people were always putting metal down, and I had friends that were in metal that suddenly felt kind of ashamed to be in it because it wasn't popular anymore. And then that angered me. So Marge and I were out shopping one day, and we had an important show coming up, and I said, Margie, I'm going to paint my face at the next show, and I don't care what the band does, but I feel like I've got to make a change, you know, and we've got to do something. There's always been tons of great bands here in Arizona. So if you're going to become a headliner band here, you've got to work really hard because there's a lot of really good bands. So she said, well, you know, do what you feel you need to do. So next rehearsal, I went in and I told the guys, and I said, next show I'm going to paint my face.
Wow.
And I really thought that they would laugh at me. But my bass player, Randy Axe, at the time said, well, if you're going to do it, we better do it or we'll look stupid. And just like that, we changed.
Wow. And so like for people, you know, your kind of built-in fan base you had at the time, how did they react when they seen the band, you know, in makeup for the very first time? That had to be kind of a unique show, I would imagine, very first time in makeup.
Oh, yeah, you know what? And we pulled it at the perfect moment because we were playing, back in the 90s, there were a couple of important shows that metal bands could play here. One of them was ABKS, which was Arizona's Best Kept Secret. That was put on by Music Voice Magazine. Another one was Live and Kickin', also by Music Voice Magazine. And the owner of the magazine would go around and handpick the bands for those shows. And he always picked well, I think. So it was our first time on Live and Kickin'. Now, the last time he had seen us, we were just in regular clothes on stage and banners and lights. And so all of a sudden we show up to play his show, and I had a gray face, and Marge painted 3 sixes all over it. And I had a 666 shirt on, and he had just been getting complaints from a music store here in town to his magazine and said, look, if you keep that satanic band running ads in your magazine, we're going to stop advertising with you. And he would come to me and said, listen, can you guys tone it down? I said, JJ, you know they're just vampire ads. It has nothing to do with the devil. He goes, I know, but please, you know, I don't want to lose these guys. So we go to play his show, and now I'm in 666 and all this, and I have my back to him, and I could just feel like someone burning a stare through my back, and I turned around, and it was JJ who owned the magazine. But I'll tell you something, okay? And this is just what happened. He was shocked and a little bit freaked out by us doing that, but then when we played and he did the review of the show, he gave us an amazing review because he said, you know, give me a band that'll go the extra mile to entertain me, and that's Crown of Thorns. Give me a band that'll throw everything they have into it, and that's Crown of Thorns. So the face paint, if anything, what it did is it pulled out things that we were probably holding in when we didn't have it.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of interesting to hear that story because for a simple fact, being a Kiss fan as huge as I am, you probably aware of the story that when Kiss was getting signed back in the day, that all the way back in 1973, maybe even 72 when they were first starting out, that's the thing everybody was saying to them was, you know, you guys, you got a great little band there, the music's pretty decent, but do you have to really wear that makeup? You know, and then that ended up not only being what got them signed, that ended up, you know, very much being who the band was, became the trademark, became the very thing they were known for. And it was like, as you were saying, like, those characters, even, you know, 50 years later, those characters in a way became much bigger than any member of the band. So much to the point that, like you said, we got Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer. They're kind of playing the roles now because those characters even became bigger than the guys that originated, those characters.
Well, you know what? It's like different guys playing the Joker.
Yeah.
And some of them suck, and some are the most incredible. I mean, Heath Ledger and even Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, those two Jokers. I was like, wow.
I tell you, I seen that Joker movie they put out recently, and man, that's some scary stuff. But I tell you, it was one of the best things I'd ever seen.
No, it was incredible, and so I try to give Tommy the benefit of the doubt in that sense. That no, you're not Ace Frehley, but where I give him huge props is he gives true loving tribute to Ace's music.
Yeah.
He doesn't get up there and try to throw tons of himself in it.
Yeah.
He plays close to Ace. And, guitar players, it's hard for them to do that because especially a guy like him is incredibly talented.
Yeah, see,
I'll bet he'd love to just wail on some of those songs, but he doesn't because he's a professional.
Yeah,
he plays it the way Ace played it.
See, Tommy Thayer to me is very much like Bruce Killigan, that he knows his part, the part he plays, and he kind of sticks to that. Because I mean, even if he's not,
though, he wrote albums with Kiss.
Yeah.
And I think if you get a chance, have you ever heard Carnival of Souls?
Oh yeah, man. It's kind of different, like you're saying. That's kind of I would refer to that kind of as the grunge album, but I like a lot of that stuff. Like for example,
to me, that's the heaviest album.
yeah. I mean, for example, there's a song on there. I like a lot of the Gene stuff, but like there's a song on there called "Childhood's End," "Seduction of Innocent," and then I like the one that Bruce sings. It's called "I Walk Alone," and that was actually like originally a Gene tune that he wrote, but they said, Bruce, why don't you give us the shot? Or I guess actually the producer Toby Wright said, Bruce, you take a whale at that, see if you can do it.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that album was typically, Paul does the power ballads and all the kind of little poppy tunes, but a lot of his stuff was heavier than what you would typically expect. Like I like the song "Jungle" and "Rain." They just had some heavy, groovy stuff on there.
Yeah, no, I love so much of that. And like you said, bottom line is it comes down to the songwriting.
Yeah.
And the reason why Kiss has lasted as long as they have is because they write great songs.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you just cannot go wrong with too much of anything they've ever done. I mean, they may have one or two clunkers, but over, the fact that you have a 50-year career.
Right?
Yeah. I'm totally with you there. And I pretty much, I'm one of those guys that I got to say, as a Kiss fan, I love it all. Like I have just as much respect, say, for Eric Singer as I do Peter Criss or Eric Carr. I think everybody kind of brought something into the band. Each new member. So I think that's cool.
Eric Singer is such a professional, man.
Yeah.
Look at the list of people he's played for.
Oh yeah.
And he brings that into Kiss. The guy's a machine, and I met him again very short time, but his vibe was very cool, man. This guy's real.
Just go back to this for a minute. I mean, do you remember when that Revenge album came out in 1992? But Eric Carr just passed away.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I met them on that tour.
And what really impressed me was, just think about this for a minute. As silly as it sounds, Eric Singer was able to join Kiss back in a time when he was the blonde guy. Nobody ever got away with that because he was that good. I think
Yeah, and he was. And he is.
Yeah.
And again, he's one of those guys that if you were going to hire him, you know exactly what you're going to get because he's a machine.
Yeah, and Eric Singer, the thing that they actually discovered is I don't even think he was aware of when he joined Kiss, was he's a pretty decent lead singer. Like if you look on Unplugged, he's one of the three guys singing "Nothing to Lose." And then he's gotten to a point where sometimes they let him sing Beth live. And he does a few, like he put out this cool like Eric Singer Project CD a number of years ago. It had like John Corabi and Bruce Kulick and Ace made an appearance on it, and like they covered Montrose stuff, and Eric did a couple lead vocals. I'm like, man, this guy should put out a lead vocal track or a full length solo album because he's a pretty decent singer, and we kind of found that out about him. Yeah.
See, I bet you didn't know we were going to talk about Kiss all night, did you?
I had no idea really, but. I could talk all night about that, but as a Kiss fan, as you obviously are, what was a record for you where you kind of became a Kiss fan? What was the very first song, the very first album you had that kind of really turned you on to Kiss?
I can tell you exactly. And the first 3 Kiss records on Casablanca Records, first of all, that label was on its last thread of life when they were on it. So they were lucky that they got on it, but it put their records out, but the first 3 records bombed.
Oh, yeah.
But the record that took me and took everybody was Kiss Alive.
Oh, no doubt.
All of a sudden, you know, and I guess what it is people just weren't taking them serious enough during the first 3 records. And if you go back to those 3 records, there's a lot of classic, amazing Kiss songs on them, but people just kind of let them go by.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the way
that came out.
Yeah.
And the sound on that album and the crowd and the energy put in that music, and most of all, that album cover.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody had seen nothing like that before.
Oh, yeah.
It instantly went huge.
I mean, a double album gatefold. They didn't. I mean, that was, I think, the first time they'd ever really seen anything like that in the record store. A lot of people listening to this, Prophet, they don't even know what a record, let alone a record store, is these days, which is very sad thing. But very much like you're saying,
those. We're getting the poster of that album cover.
Oh,
that
wow.
first album cover, whoever came up with that shot, and that is the album cover. They, in my mind, are brilliant.
Yeah. But I will tell you, very very much like you said, I've heard Paul Stanley talk about this over years. Those first 3 Kiss albums, to me, like if you listen to them now, a lot of it's very classic sounding, very raw, much more raw than say like Destroyer was actually a lot more polished, we'll say. But especially the very first Kiss album, you got stuff like Firehouse, Black Diamond, Deuce. And
great song.
Yeah, and 50 years later, but that is some powerful stuff. But the interesting thing is about that Alive album is like they released Rock and Roll All Night as a single off of their 3rd album, Dressed to Kill. Now, I'm sure like many people, you've seen the video they eventually put out, the live promo like from Alive. But very much like with Cheap Trick, Rock and Roll All Night, it was a great anthem, but it really did not become a blockbuster hit until they put out the live version off of Kiss Alive 1, And very interesting because, like you said, Kiss Alive just kind of took it to the next level. A lot of people they knew who Kiss was, but like you said, they weren't being played heavily on the radio. And the band and the management and a lot of people started working behind the scenes saying, there's something about this band Kiss going on live that people really aren't getting it. And it wasn't until that live album came out that people started to really, catch on.
Oh my God, it changed overnight.
Oh yeah.
Suddenly every friend I had was saying Kiss rules.
Yeah. And again, like we said, the makeup all of a sudden became a big part of who they were. Now,
because it's a band like Kiss or Alice Cooper or Marilyn Manson or Ghost. It's heavy metal theater or Saint Madness.
Yeah.
We're all putting on our own heavy metal theater or heavy music theater, however you want it. But
yeah, that's what I call rock and roll theater. Getting back to Saint Madness. So once you guys made the transition and started wearing the makeup, you obviously were the very first one that kind of had your design. But did each guy kind of come up with their own character in that, and how did that work?
Yeah, they did, and it was amazing. Our bass player at the time was part Native American, so he started going that route, and he ended up mixing a Native American style face paint with almost a Gothic style face paint as well.
Wow.
And he came up with an amazing look, but in the beginning, I changed my face every show because, again, I was trying to find out who I was. Who's this character Prophet really going to be? And who he ended up being is in the photos of the later 90s. Once I found that set look, then I stuck with it for years, kind of like the one I have now.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to get to that look where I said, okay, that's who this guy is, or who part of me.
And I was very much like the guys in Kiss. I mean, you may not be at the same levels, but like especially around Arizona, a local area where you guys are from, I'd imagine it also gives you kind of a power to, when you're putting on a show, when you're in that kind of character, when you're in that vibe, you can kind of very much like Alice Cooper says, when I'm on stage, I'm Alice Cooper, but when I'm at home or I'm not playing a show, I'm Vince. That's I'm a regular person who I am day to day. It kind of got to help you be able to have that freedom to kind of, if you have to go out grocery shopping, you don't have to necessarily worried about being recognized, out in public.
Right. No, that's true. And that's why I love it, because it's show business.
Yeah.
And I think when I was younger, and probably a lot of us in bands, I forgot it was show business and thought it was about, how cool I had to be or always about, unless you're filthy rich, you're not worth anything. And you got to make it to the top in music,
Well, success, success.
Guys in bands, and I get that, but as I get older now, it's just my heart and soul in the music, man. And for those who love it, I'm honored to play it for you. And for those who don't, hey, good luck. There's tons of shit out there.
Yeah, and what I say to that is success means different things to different people. Some people it does mean about the coin and how much money you make, but then like you said, there's a certain level of happiness, because in many ways people would be loving to live the life you're living, like being able to do a show like that, getting up on stage, being able to go in and make records. To some people that is success. It just kind of depends on what your definition is. And let me ask you about.
I feel very fortunate, truly fortunate to have been able to be in this band all those years and make all those records and play all those shows and have all those good times. I mean, my life has been blessed, very much so, and I never forget to be grateful for it.
Yeah. And, I was curious, now you mentioned the band was originally named Crown of Thorns, and I think I even know the band you're talking about, but there was another band at the time, and you changed the name to Saint Madness, and I had seen something online where you guys had actually, with your lawyer, I think, or manager, done it like a search for a new name. But how did you come up with Saint Madness for the band's name?
Because the album we had out at the time, while we were still Crown of Thorns, the album was called The Spiritual Visions of Saint Madness.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
The transition was that easy. Can you believe that?
That's amazing. And, that you go to all that trouble, come with a great, even Crown of Thorns is a great sounding name, but it was taken, unfortunately. And I got also comment, because you said, I guess you're responsible for a lot of artwork. The album cover I'm looking at, man, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, like a pumpkin devil or something, but it's a great little kind of mascot or whatever you want to call it. But did you come up with
evil?
What is
called Evil? Yeah, it's a character.
Oh wow, that is cool. And
it's our mascot.
Okay, yeah, that is great, because I also noticed on the CD, the very first track is Day of the Dead, which I'm assuming is about Halloween or something.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, Day of the Dead is about what we're living now and about how worse it's going to get in the future.
Yeah.
It's about the dead walking around, taking over.
Wow.
Actually dead.
And I got to ask you, with you get a little political here for a minute, with all the COVID-19 stuff going on and the lockdown and all that. Very sad that people are unable to get out there and perform. I mean, what has this done for you guys as a band? Because that's a big way the bands make money these days, is going out and performing live.
Yeah, that and the fact that, we love what we do. And, it's been helping us to write some new music.
Okay, and where are we with that as far as, because this album, I think, came out...
Stay busy. And see, we have a side band that we do called Prophet and the Cowboys of Apocalypse. And that music is mostly acoustic.
Okay.
And it's kind of Americana.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, the first record of that came out in 2010. Well, we're right near the end of finishing the follow-up, which is called Last Days in Paradise. And all the members of Saint Madness took part in the writing and recording of this album. Plus, we had a bunch of other friends, musicians that we admire and stuff, and we mashed them all together and made this record. And I think it's really, really incredible myself, but, I'm biased. But
Well, yeah. Well, like I said, just judging from my ears on this latest CD, we've been talking about great stuff. I really urge people to get it, and I'd be interested in hearing the other stuff. But I will say, like I was curious about the name Prophet. I mean, how did you come up with that? Because that's an interesting sounding kind of name too.
it is, and the funny thing is, the explanation is not near as interesting.
As you might think. Yeah.
My aunt married a man named Simeon Propeta.
Oh, wow.
And in English, it's Prophet.
Uh-huh.
And my aunt, she had a Jeep.
Uh-huh.
And her personalized plate said Prophet.
So
and whenever
simple. Oh,
I was around her and I would see that Jeep, I remember how cool that name Prophet looked on a license plate.
Yeah, and here I'm thinking it's like something religious or something from
Well, okay, but see, the band was called Crown of Thorns,
Yeah.
so I thought, hey, what a cooler connection than Prophet, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I love about hearing your story is a lot of times you hear something like a cool sounding name and you're like, oh man, I'd love to hear the story, but it's so simple and yet so great, It's so simple. That's what I love about it. And wow. And so do you think like these other projects you're working on, do you think these albums are likely to come out before the end of the year, or probably more likely towards next year?
Last Days in Paradise should be finished musically this year, which means we can actually release it digitally at that point.
Yeah.
And then next year I'd like to press it, because I'm still old school, and I love having the booklets with the artwork.
I'm with you.
And it's a whole package.
Yeah, I'm with you because I'll be honest with you. Part of the reason I asked you, would you mind sending me a CD, is because I am an old school guy. I miss going to, like I said, a record store. And I remember going to Tower Records. That used to be my hangout, and you could go. They had every possible selection of music you could even think of, and they just had a ton to choose from. And these days, mostly I get a lot of my stuff off of Amazon, just because there's no other choice but to do it, And so I think the fact that you continue to put stuff out like that the old school way, that's very cool of you. Now, and then also, you've sent me some of this stuff digitally, but at first when you sent it to me, I didn't quite understand the emails that this was the same band till I went back and kind of read. Okay. I thought it was like because first I seen emails from like Nasty Prick Records, so I thought it was like a record person sending like different stuff from a label. But I thought, okay, this is cool stuff, and I really urge people to, like I said, check it out. And the last thing I kind of want to touch base, you see, because of what we're talking about, the live performance and people not being able to go out there these days. Right now, you see a lot of bands like doing this stuff, like streaming, like doing live performances, maybe from their studio or something, or their backyard. Have you thought about doing anything like that?
Yeah, we have, and I think under the right circumstances we will. But I watched a lot of videos, various videos that bands were putting up from their rehearsal place and whatever.
Yeah.
And though the music was cool, the sound was not so cool.
Yeah, that's what somebody was telling me. He says, well, if I'm going to do something like that, I want to do it the right.
If I'm going to represent State Madness out there, I want to try to do the best that we can and be professional about it,
Yeah. And let me ask you, Prophet, like when you guys do go out there and perform, or you make some kind of public performance, how long does do you usually go to the gig made up? Like you get made up at home, or do you wait till you get down to the place you're performing at and to get made up?
We usually meet around 6:30 at night at Bad Manor, which is where we rehearse when we paint up, and we usually play some loud music while we're doing it, and we just kind of have fun and get in the mood. And it's like a ritual that we've done forever.
Oh wow! So you're very you're very used to that now. And then I'd imagine, as you've had members come and go over the years, that the new members that come into the band, you allow them to kind of come up with their own character.
Oh yeah. That's kind of important.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed is musicians who truly wanted to be in this band, there was more than just a musical reason.
Yeah.
There were usually people who kind of wanted to paint up and see what that felt like, to get out there and do that, and to see if it changes you, and so forth. And
because I've always as a music I've always as a music fan, I've dug theatrical bands, even bands that weren't full blown on in makeup like Kiss, but like even like a Motley Crue where you go and Nikki Sixx would light his boot on fire or something like that. I mean, just the ultimate rock show. You were seeing.
Yeah, that's the show, right? And we're entertainers, and in our band, that's why we're in it, is to be entertainers. So we just want the audience to have a good time, and especially in these days, man. Life is hard on everybody. When they come to a St. Madness show, we just want them to walk away from it feeling like it was kind of a therapy for them, it lifted some weight.
Yeah, well, like, St. Madness, like you said, I think you guys, from your story you've told me tonight, very interesting transition, because kind of like when you started, from what you've told me, it was very much a band that was like just kind of in your jeans and t-shirts. And then once you made that transition, because again, I think most of us, when we go see a band, we want to see more than just a band, 5 guys, whatever, in their jeans and t-shirts. You want to you want to see them get dressed up. You put on the ultimate rock show. I know what I want. Otherwise, I could stay home in my my bedroom and just kind of get down to some great rock tunes. But I'd much rather go see a great theatrical band like that, because I'm getting a little something extra for my money.
Well, and the beauty is there's something out there for everybody, man. There's so many great bands out there and artists on all different genres. I mean, it's really awesome. Because the music we love becomes the soundtrack of our lives.
Oh, that's so true. And even like I've heard, as much of a Kiss fan as you, obviously, I've heard you probably like me hear the guys over the years talk about, like Paul Stanley to say, we used to be the guys in the audience. We jumped from the audience up to the stage, and now we put on the ultimate rock show for you. That's what it's all about,
That's right. And that all big artists, probably 99% of them came out of the underground at one point.
Oh yeah, and of course, like before I wrap up the interview, I couldn't end it without asking you another song I really dug, which I know has a personal kind of note to your life, if you don't mind discussing, is he's riding a Harley in heaven. You want to talk a little bit about that to the people listening to this?
That John was Marge's son and my stepson, and on July 3rd, 2016, he passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
And he was in Detroit at the time, and I had talked to him on the phone. I guess it was probably a few days before that. And the last thing he said to me is, all I want to do is just get on a bike and ride.
Wow.
Ride off, And so when we were putting together a tribute song for John, and most people close to him knew him as John.
Yeah.
And we wanted to write, a tribute, and in memory of, but also a kind of a tribute. So I thought about it, and I write the lyrics for St. Madness, and I thought I'll take the last thing he said to me and make a song out of that. And Sid had this amazing music already, and as soon as I heard the music, I thought, that sounds like a biker song,
Wow.
And so we made that one for John.
And if you don't mind me asking, how old was the young man when he passed away?
He was 38.
Oh wow, tragically young. Sorry to hear that.
Young.
Yeah. That's one of those songs I bet
he lived a tough life.
Yeah.
And
it is what it is.
Every time I sing this song, I just think about him, and he was one of these guys who could make anybody laugh.
Yeah. That's
like cutting up and saying something funny.
Yeah, I'm sure that's one of those songs you wish you never had to write. But I will say this, and I'm not even talking about the way the song sounds or anything. I mean, I could tell just listening to the lyrics, like you said, after I read what the song was about. Obviously, this young man touched you. He was your stepson. And you could tell the lyrics were written really from the heart, obviously. But the song I was going to say, not even sound-wise, just kind of lyrically, I'd say the best, what it reminds me the most of, if you ever heard Eric Clapton's song "Tears in Heaven," which was kind of a tribute to his son at 7 years old, fell off his balcony of his New York apartment. But man, anytime I hear that song, it brings me to tears, just because you could hear how much that man loved his son, and it's the same type of thing.
Lyric, the emotion and the music in that song can make anybody cry.
Yeah. And it's when you can write a song like that not just has a special meaning to you, obviously, but it can affect other people like that, or just, oh man, what a touching song. As a songwriter, that's gotta be kind of a ultimate feeling, well, wow, my music's touching people, or
So, that would be wonderful if it does,
Yeah. Well, anything else you'd like to say, Prophet, before we end this tonight?
Just thank you for having me on, man. It's been great. I was looking forward to it, and I've had a great time.
Yeah, I want to thank you for kind of turning me on to your band's music, because this is one of the best things I've heard in years. I will tell people that. I mean that from the bottom of my